plantations and work us literally to death from sun up to sundown. If, and I hate to use this word, but if we were lucky. Because as horrible, there was nothing lucky about being enslaved. As horrible as the slave plantations were, they don't tell us about the sex farms. Right. See, they only give us one part of the story. What about the sex farms, where the real effeminization of the black male really began? Because this is the process of taking out all of the things that make a man a man. A man protects his women and children. A man will fight and take life or give his life in the protection of his women and children and families. But here, they would train the black male, no longer a man, to go out and invite the Europeans to come in who wanted to purchase our women as sex toys. And the black male would go around and show our women off like merchandise. Come on in. Let me show you this one. Oh, let me tell you about her. You want to pay a few dollars and go try her out in the back? You'll really enjoy her. She's worth it. Okay, well, no, her? No, she's a virgin. She's never been touched. I don't know if you got enough money for that. You can't test this one out. You got to be able to pay dollar on the barrel head up front. And so the man who should have been there was no longer there. And we began to appreciate and actually think that it was a positive thing and a desirable thing to be a male selling the sexual exploitation of our own women that we're supposed to be protecting. We thought it was a great job. We were happy to have the job, and people wanted the job. In fact, the brothers, if you want to call them that, they got paid the best, because remember, white folks are freakish. They don't really particularly want grown women anyway. But the room where they had the little girls was where you had to have a lot of money. I mean, you had to have big money. You had to be rich to come here. And now they would train a black male. He would get the nicest suits, the nicest dress. He would actually get paid. He would have money. He would have freedom to roam around. His job was to take the young little girls between 6 and 13 years old and teach them to gyrate and shake their bodies and make themselves look sexually appealing for the European freaks that would come and buy them for sexual exploits. See, they don't tell us about this part of slavery. I know it's hard for us to imagine being in a situation where we would celebrate the sexual exploitation of our own daughters, because it sounds ridiculous. It's been so long since we participated in such a process that we can't really imagine that we would be reduced and effeminized to a position where we would think that we were big men who should be celebrated, and we would accept money and trinkets and gifts to participate in defiling our own women on a regular and daily basis, and think that it was something that we should be proud of. Can you imagine during slavery, big, strong, physical black males who have been so effeminized and the manhood has been stripped out of so much that they actually think they're doing something positive by presenting our daughters as sexual objects to the world and celebrating this sick, perverse process, no longer knowing what it means to be a man, only a male who participates in the exploitation of his own women. And we taught our women to do it so much as daughters and girls that eventually they would grow up having thought their whole youthful life that they were supposed to be sexual objects and that's all they were worth. After they would grow up, they would eventually teach their own daughters to present themselves as sexual objects before the world. And so, through a process of colonizing the mind of African people, they turned us into something you can't imagine. But if you want to talk about the most expensive rooms, they wanted to reach their highest and noblest aspirations. It was the room where they would call the faggot room.
Brace yourself.
Where they had the white male.
Brace yourself.
That would teach the little black boys in oral sex and anal sex. And they would put dresses on them and put them in earrings and grease them up and have flowers in their ears and present them, our black sons, as female sexual slaves for the white males who had the top dollar to come and pay them for. And they would take our sons back to their personal sex farms of their homes during slavery, and because there was no black manhood available to protect our sons and daughters from this madness, slavery was an ugly reality where our sons were turned into the daughters of the European sexual enslavers. Now I know it's hard to imagine the things I was just talking about. You got to have a vivid imagination. But one thing we always say, Dr. John Henry Clark said, if you forget the lessons of history, you are bound to repeat them.
Teach, teach.
I'll say that again. Dr. John Henry Clark told us, repeat after me, if you forget the relevant lessons of history, you are bound to repeat them. And so what we see here today, brothers and sisters, in our current environment, the European does not need to physically come in and take us necessarily. They have found a different way by going directly at the mind of our people and getting the same results they got on the slave ship through brutality and physical force by convincing us against our own identity, by convincing the black man that he's not supposed to be with the black woman, by convincing the black woman she's not supposed to be with the black man, by convincing men that they're not supposed to be with women at all, and women that they're not supposed to be with men at all, and justifying every sexual thing that's insane, and by making perverse everything that is normal. If you go out in this society today and you see a man and woman who've been married for 30 years and they're together and they're happy, that looks weird. People say that that's boring and that's abnormal. But if our sons are wearing skin-tight little jeans with colorful colors on them and dresses and any other kind of madness, they're lauded as being great. If our daughters say, I like boys and I want to be married one day, I'm saving myself for a husband, they'll laugh at her. But if she goes out half naked before the world, she's celebrated. Look at her independence. How independent is it when your enemy is in your mind telling you to defile yourself and have no self-respect, and you go and do it because they told you to. And you don't even have the sophistication to figure out, I didn't make, But the slavery now is here, which is a deeper slavery. Because it becomes difficult for me to prove to you that you're enslaved. Because, no, I'm not, look at me, I'm free. What about your mind?